All right, everyone. The government of California is trying to open up government jobs to communists. Previously, as in all parts of the United States, people who are associated with communist movements, members of communist parties, are not allowed to serve in government roles. It's an obvious conflict of interests, specifically because the Western sphere that amalgamated under NATO and so forth was opposed to communism. There was some bad blood at the time, and this is probably the most funny thing you could probably think of, because California's far left. The government there is basically a bunch of socialists. I'm not surprised that they like communism. But at the same time, they've been on the forefront of trying to stonewall everything Trump's trying to do as a state and in individual municipalities there. They've got sort of the Reds under the bed, Russia syndrome. They've got a terminal case of it, honestly, to the point where they've run their own state into the ground. People are fleeing for greener pastures elsewhere in order to find employment, not pay most of their income in taxes and fees and regulations, find cheaper land so they can actually pursue the American dream and so forth. California is on the forefront of saying, oh, Trump is, he's controlled by Russia. The GOP's been infiltrated by Russia. Russians are trying to screw the entire world. Oh, no, it's Russia all the way down because of that damn KGB Putin. And yet they're trying to allow communists into their state government positions to be government workers. Now, let's say a bunch of communists do get in there. Don't you think that they're going to do everything within their power to make the state reflect their communism? I would think so. You've got neoliberals and neoconservatives. They do that all the time. Whenever you've got libertarians within some state government or someone who's like a green, a socialist, things around them, to the best of their ability to cause this to happen, begin to reflect those policy positions. Now, if you got neoliberals or neoconservatives, it's only a couple steps from communism anyway. A lot of not central planning, but you've got a lot of interventionism, typically a higher tax policy. Neoconservatives, by the way, they're not low tax. There's nothing low tax about saying, oh, we're going to take this tax and bring it from 42% to 39%. That's not low tax, it's still high tax. It's just lower tax than what the neoliberals suggest, because there are a handful of sort of niche programs that they want to axe, or they don't care about debt spending quite so much or something like that. The same friggin' thing. Then you would go to socialism, democratic socialism, my Bernie Sanders, free ice cream for everyone sort of mode. And the tax rate goes up and regulatory burdens go up and competition is even more stifled than with the sort of neolib interventionist model. And then you go to communism. So it's two steps removed from what you have. And I know, a lot of people say, oh, but yeah, Mao and Stalin and all this stuff, that's not real communism. Real communism is collective ownership of the means of production, or, socialists say this too. That never actually happens. It's certainly not capable of happening within a bureaucratic setting, I would assume, so I'm not sure why any self-proclaimed communist, if they're following this supposed pure model that they keep talking about, would even want a government job, because don't you want the abolition of government in the state in the first place? Well, then why don't you just call yourself an anarchist or something like that? It's crazy talk. The idea that the state of California would find it acceptable to adopt people of that mentality within government jobs, pay them with public funds, I think is preposterous. It'd be like, can you imagine the outcry if someone said, oh yeah, but self-proclaimed fascists, people who are like loud and proud about wanting fascism, should be able to have government jobs and get taxpayer money in return for their work towards fascism at the government level. Isn't that a conflict of interests with most people in the population? Look, the average American is still a neoliberal or a neoconservative. Those numbers are steeply declining. People are becoming more libertarian in some ways. People are becoming more nationalistic. Some people are going further and further to the left. They're like progressives. Those cores are dying, but they're still, collectively, they're still larger than any other single group. And when you combine these other offshoots together, you get most of the population, and there are people who are apolitical. You'll find precious few people, I think, in the United States, maybe outside of San Francisco, who actually want communists to serve in government roles. This would probably be rife for some sort of lawsuit. I believe that immigration papers to the U.S. still preclude people who are self-proclaimed communists or Communist Party members from immigrating. Now, the way around this is, of course, the person would say, oh, no, I'm not a commie. No, I've never been a member of the Moldavian communist movement or something like that. And then potentially they get in. There are, background checks conducted. But, with our intelligence agencies the way they are, how spotty they are, who knows if they actually can. They can't catch cartel members. They can't catch fucking terrorists. How the hell are they going to catch someone who's just a Communist Party member? With some secret role or something. It's not going to happen. Half of them probably get through anyway. Who cares? Some communist comes to the United States, lies about, oh, I'm not a communist. Okay, well, they're just a private citizen. But to admit those people into government jobs, I think, is a terrible idea. The only saving grace, if this happens, would be that because California is full of socialists and communists, you'll get communists that join up and they get into their positions. They do a shitty job because they're communists. They don't understand the concept of property rights if they're a communist. They don't understand the concept of liberty or constitutionalism or really anything else that designed our nation from the ground up, from its founding all the way until now. There are plenty of people now that have forgotten about the sanctity of the Constitution anyway, let alone people who they follow an ideology that is directly antithetical to virtually all ways of life within the U.S. So it would make it easier to expose these people. You get them into some government positions, they're in for office, a local office or something, they do a crappy job, you say, oh, well, yeah, of course they did, they're a communist or something like that. That's the only saving grace. The silver lining is if you get a communist in these positions, you can expose the shitty job that they do. And they'll be held to higher scrutiny. But the thing is, within California, nobody will even care. Nobody will even care because communism is seen as a good thing in parts of California. Not all. I understand that there are parts of California that are more like, the sane world in many other states. It's like New York City versus New York State. New York City is run by crazy people. Bloomberg's a crazy person. All the people that lead New York City are crazy. You go to upstate New York and you find that things, it's really more like small town America. A lot of people don't even know New York is anything other than a city. They don't even know it's a state. In California, what's there? People know LA and San Diego and San Francisco, maybe Sacramento or something. And then the rest of the state is like, they see it as the hinterlands or something. They don't even understand it's there, other than maybe the vineyards in the Mojave Desert or something, as just landmark attractions. The redwoods, something like that. It'll be funny to watch this cause the state to decline further, because the state of California keeps making these semi-centrally planned ideas for a light rail or some highway they want to build, and they never pan out and they cost a lot of money, they never get completed. This is why the state is hemorrhaging people, because they spend heavily, they get no return off that, and it eerily resembles sort of Chinese central investing. It eerily resembles the centrally planned aspect of China's economy, as opposed to in many states things are still much more privatized. Private endeavors, because, making money is the primary motive, they tend to pan out. And this is something that people who are like socialists and communists have never understood. They think that's a bad thing, that the fact that there's profit involved is somehow human rights abuse or something along those lines. In reality, you're getting abused by your government. There's no such thing as stateless communism. There never will be. It's impossible to actually achieve. It's utopian nonsense, and all of its offshoots are equally utopian nonsense. So yeah, let them in the California government, see what happens. Chances are they do a piss poor job, and people say, "Oh, these fucking commies." And meanwhile, I'm sure Jerry Brown and all these other idiots in California, Commifornia really now, in a more official sense than before, will still be complaining about Russia. They'll still be saying, oh, Russia's trying to influence our foreign policy. Russia's trying to destroy the United States. Well, then why are you adopting communism? It doesn't make any sense. You're always talking about Putin. Putin is dangerous because former KGB and stuff like that, and yet you want to have people who are proclaimed communists within your state government. Okay, that makes a great deal of sense. Wonderful times ahead for Commifornia. Your tax rate, when it jumps up to 70% and you have absolutely nothing and you're in a breadline or something along those lines because the state's no longer fiscally capable of functioning and has to be bailed out by the rest of us, don't blame everybody else for your mistakes. That's about all. Peace out.